Really hate to interrupt this. Hey, Jack, you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Hey. So you got that string hanging out the window, right? Pull it taut. Can you hear us better now?
I can barely hear you.
Oh, great. He can barely hear us. I've got 4 pages prepared here. Why don't you push some more buttons? I tell you. Sure you can't come over to the studio in person, right? Well, I don't know what else we can try to make it any louder. I don't know,
Well, you just sound like you're in a tunnel, but that's okay. You can scream away there.
Okay, we'll scream away. Well, anyway, I'd like to thank you again and welcome you to the airways here in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and WMBR, the Lost and Found show. And I'll let you know a little bit about our show here. We're more than just a classic rock show. We play 60s and early 70s pop, psychedelia, folk, punk, blues, jazz, and anything played without regard to baby boomer demographic and marketing potential. So just so you understand what we're doing here.
All righty.
All right. Anyway, we got a bunch of questions prepared for you, and we'd like to say happy birthday, first of all. How's it feel to be 38?
It feels great. I feel like I've been here before.
Right. Hey, I was at the last Hot Tuna show that you did before the initial breakup at the Palladium in New York City, and you sang "We Got the Party Tonight," right?
Yes.
Remember that? Now, we got this little thing going, right? We have this airplane tape, and there's this song called "The Man," and we think that's you singing also. Is that true?
If it's a lead vocal, the man.
Yeah, the man.
I think that was our drummer of the moment,
Joey Covington. Well, I'm glad we didn't have a bet on that one. Yeah, it was like something. Don't mess with the man.
Yes, that was definitely Joey.
Yeah. Okay, well, here we go. All those tapes that we sent out, we're going to have to fix those, aren't we?
Jack, have you ever sang lead with the airplane? Or ever?
No, I can't consider myself one who comments but not sings.
Oh, by the way, that's the mighty Slim. He's
yes.
he really is mighty, too. I think he once played with you, in fact.
Yes, did the infamous Mona at the Guitar Center. Do you remember that, Jack?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He really is mighty, isn't he?
He is mighty indeed. Yeah, we had fun doing those Guitar Center shows.
Yeah, I unfortunately was not clued into that beforehand, and unfortunately missed it. But been to quite a few of the shows throughout the years. And I'll tell you, judging from the way you look performing nowadays, it seems like you're having more fun now than ever before.
Hopefully that will continue. That I love to play music, and a lot of my heroes growing up always seem to keep playing. A lot of the bluegrass guys I like to listen to always seem to get better every time they come into town and have a few more licks under their belt, and that's kind of how I approach it in the folk and traditional music genre. You keep playing and expanding your repertoire and get better.
Well, all of us longtime fans, and especially here on the East Coast, I have to say, you guys have a lot of loyal fans, right? We appreciate the fact that you still come around. We really do. We love it.
That's what you do. Playing and going to cities and going on the road is part of the package. It's you have to bring the music to the people, and that's the way it goes.
Hey, Muddy Waters played till he dropped dead.
Well, and so did people like Segovia and people like that.
Exactly.
And it's a wonderful thing to get the audience right in front of you. And we just came back from our first Hot Tuna tour of Japan, and we went in January, and we had a tremendous response. And one of the clubs we played at was so tiny that the stage was in a little storefront window where you stepped up, and the club was so tiny and packed that they had to take the plate glass out of the window. We climbed in off the street, got on the stage, and then they put the glass back behind us.
That's excellent. We had a gig like that every Tuesday right here in Cambridge, but they didn't have to take the glass out of the window for us, I'm afraid. That's a great story.
But the point of that is the audience participation is everything. And at one of these future dates, I believe we'll even have possibly we'll have one of the live tapes from Japan, Tuna in Japan, if you can get all the double entendres there.
Right. That's a sushi album, right? The sushi record label?
Possibly we'll have something to come out later on in the year about that.
Yeah, Jorma was telling me that those tapes some of those tapes from Japan really came out kick butt.
Yeah, they did. They turned out quite well. I listened to them here and sent them out to Jorma's studio in Ohio, and I think as we speak, they're being worked on.
Yeah, Jorma, I was dismayed to hear Jorma was mentioning to me that the new Hot Tuna studio project that had been planned for right around now, I guess, has been shelved. And I mean, the current version of the band is really cooking these days, and that's really a pity.
Hopefully, hopefully we'll get something shaken pretty soon with some brand new material.
Well, Jorma has got his studio up and running, and you were just mentioning to me, at first I had heard of it, that you're involved with the studio too now, or?
Well, I've converted an attic in a traditional way. I believe they refer to it as reclaiming space, but the A-frame attic, and I've turned that into a little studio up on top of the house here, and so that's really nice. I haven't had that luxury, for a long time. So everything being miniature in the way it is these days, you can do a lot with a small space.
Yeah. We actually our band recorded a demo in a place just like that in this guy's attic. It was
Gary?
Yep.
You sound like you walked away.
Oh no, how's that? Any better?
That's better.
I'll tell you this, and this is WMBR MIT. You know what that stands for, right?
Yes.
What is it? Missiles something or other? No, Massachusetts Institute of Technology. I tell you, they can put a man on the moon, right? I was actually that album. I know Jorma I think he had gotten as far into pre-production on that project, the new studio project. Had you gotten involved in any writing up to this point for the new studio record that has been shelved?
Well, when we get together, we'll start thrashing some things out, and I think there'll be a few surprises in order.
Right.
That's all I'm going to say.
Okay, yeah, okay. Well, Jorma said that you were a big boy and that you could answer the question yourself.
Jack, now I understand you've done a video for Homespun. How?
Yes, there's two things. A couple of things I'm very excited about. Homespun video allowed me to do a tutorial instructional bass video, and I've helped Jorma do a couple of them, and I think he now has 4 of them out, or his 4th will be coming out this summer. My first will be coming out this summer, and I concentrated on the Hot Tuna material with this first instructional video, and went over about 6 or 7 songs, and broke them down and showed my approach, which is a little more of a melodic approach to bass playing, and my approach with somebody who plays fingerpick style guitar, that's i.e. Jorma, and it was really a lot of fun to do, and I hope it is in fact instructional, and along with that, I've been working with the Gibson Epiphone people, and Epiphone has had agreed to put out the Jack Casady bass, and it's a semi-hollow body acoustic bass similar to the ones that I've been playing for a number of years. Only I redeveloped the pickup on it, and I think got a even smoother, better sound on it, and that I theoretically went into full production this week, and the first guitars should come out around the end of June or July.
Well, that's great. Yeah, I understand you'll be playing this summer. You'll be playing with the Jefferson Starship reincarnation.
Well, there's been many, but basically over the years, including the KBC band, basically Marty and Paul and I have played together in a number of combinations. And in this last few years, the combination has included Prairie Prince from the Tubes as our drummer, and that's always been an enjoyable combination to play with, and Slick Aguilar on guitar, who's living on the East Coast in New Jersey, and then we've had a couple of different singers, female singers with us, Darby Gould for a couple of years, and Diana Mangano in the last couple of years. So we should be doing something in July, I believe. That's the powers that be are working on such a thing right now.
I remember Slick from my Miami days, and he was in a house band at Monty Trainor's in Coconut Grove back in the early '80s. It was funny when he turned out to be in your band. It was just something on a personal note there.
Speaking of drummers, Jack, when's the last time you spoke with Skip Spence?
I actually did a project with Skip Spence through a gentleman that works here at McCabe's Music, and it was for a possible pilot for or a possible tune to go on X-Files, but it never made it. But I saw Skip and worked on a song with him last year, and had a chat with him and so forth.
How's he doing? How's he doing personally, would you say?
Beg your pardon, Gary?
How would you say he's doing personally?
Well, he was hanging in there. Let me put it that way. And he was trying to hold everything together. He's had a rough time of it, I think. And so, but he definitely he had a support group with him, and there's some people helping him out.
That's good. He's quite the musician too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I recently been doing a lot of radio and involved with a lot of the San Francisco stuff too, and went back and listened to all of the Hot Tuna, Jefferson Airplane, and the New Riders records. Mm-hmm. And Spencer Dryden really does slay me, I have to say. I mean, I've heard
Spencer what?
He slays me. I mean, he's great.
He is, and you know, one of the nice things about playing with Spencer is that he used really interesting rhythm combinations. He didn't hit the drums real hard, so later on when the power groups and the Cream came in and you saw various really heavy approaches to the drums, you know, he couldn't keep up with that kind of approach. But with his jazz background, I think actually in retrospect, and the way I approach my bass, it actually worked out to be an interesting combination, because he didn't really work the bass drum foot like a rock player would. So that kind of actually freed me up to do more melody, and he did more interesting rhythm patterns on the drums. And I saw Spencer when we were inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and Spencer came out. It was nice to talk with him. I hadn't had a chance to talk with him in a long time.
You know, I've heard various rumors regarding his departure from the Airplane. Can you set the public straight on that?
I beg your pardon?
Yeah, I've heard various rumors about Spencer's departure from the Airplane.
Yeah.
Can you set us straight on that one?
Well, like I said, I think at that stage we were sort of searching for a heavier hard rock sound, and his approach was a little lighter, you know, and we geared ourselves towards a little heavier sounding on the drum, and that's kind of what happened.
Are you saying that he was asked to leave the band?
I think it was a rather a mutual situation there, because as you well know, bands hardly lasted more than a few years together anyway, and we didn't we sort of self-destructed soon after Spencer's departure, but that's kind of what happened. It was Spencer was interested in some other projects, and we moved on.
Well, I know that you and Norma were heavily into Cream, and you mentioned. Well,
it wasn't that we were into Cream as much as we really liked the approach three musicians doing musical things.
Yeah. Well,
and so I think that was a wake-up call to take it all seriously, and also there were so many different varieties of styles within the Airplane. It was really hard to present them all under one format, and that's basically what led to Hot Tuna being formed.
Well, it seems like, I know I read somewhere that you once said that when Cream came through the Fillmore, and they did, I guess, like a 10-night run in, I guess it was 67 or 68, and that they had a huge influence on all the bands.
Well, they had, yes, they did in taking the sort of arty approach of the San Francisco band in the 60s, which quite a few of the players, majority of the players, never really considered themselves going into the profession of playing music. And I think it woke up a lot of those guys that you could really be good at this, and why not try to be really good at it?
Did you ever get a chance to play with any of them?
We did. We've seen them. The only guy I got a chance to play with was on a regular basis with Jimi Hendrix, more regular basis, and Mitch Mitchell, and we became good buddies through a lot of the. Bill Graham was our manager at the Fillmore, and we had rehearsal studios or not studios, place to rehearse in the Fillmore, and then a building next door, a temple, that we rehearsed in, and that when various bands would come through town, we'd have a chance to jam and hang out and go do things.
What was your impressions playing with Jimi Hendrix?
I thought the man was very sensitive. He was a good guy, kind of quiet, and Mitch Mitchell and I kind of buddied it up a lot, and through that we became friends. And when our paths crossed, we tried to get a chance to play. And after I did the blues cut on Electric Ladyland, Voodoo Child, then that sort of gave me a little bit of a hook. So when he would come in town and at Winterland or over in Oakland Coliseum, I'd get a chance to run up on stage and play Red House or a tune or two,
A question that you mentioned that you're friends with Mitch Mitchell, and I know this is a question that a lot of people out there would like to know. Whatever happened to Mitch Mitchell?
Well, he's let's see. The last I heard, he was in the south of France. I talked to him pretty much on a regular basis over the last few years. I haven't heard from him in about a year, but we've been keeping in touch from time to time, and I believe he'll be. I believe there's a few projects connected with the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame that he'll be out doing, as a matter of fact. And so if you contact those people out there, you might be able to get hold of them if you want to have a chat or two. Yeah,
that would be something good for the show, definitely. Hey, just to switch gears a little bit, Jack, I've heard you talking about there no longer really being a necessity for a large amount of amplification on your stage due to the fact that house PAs are markedly improved and sufficiently loud. I guess I dispute that, because you can't really feel the bass the way you used to be able to at your shows, years ago, and of course, you had a lot of amps on the stage, and it took. I remember a friend of mine was working with you guys. It took a few 18-wheelers to get all that stuff around from town to town, and I'm sure there was a significant amount of hearing loss. But certainly, needless to say, and I'm sure that people often mention this to you, it was really nice to be able to really feel the bass. I mean, we got the best bass player in the world playing. You might as well be able to feel the bass, right?
Well, yeah, I like that. Generally your sound systems these days are so much better and of better quality than they used to be. So that was pretty much the primary reason why. In some of those old photos, you see more band equipment than you see PA equipment.
Well, I remember those shows real well, and I was a kid.
I think what you're talking about is the experience of having that wall of amplifiers and then placing your head in front of them.
No, I wasn't. Now, I know that there is a certain strain of Tuna freak from the East Coast, especially, that that was like that. But I beg to differ with you there on that one, Jack. Honestly, it honestly seems, and I'm just being honest with you, with all due respect, that often, especially some of the venues that you all play, that you're drowned out, and that you can't really hear what you're doing. And especially, and Jorma has always been somebody, in the case when you play with Jorma, that has had guitar amps pretty loud up on the stage, and that's how he's always preferred it. And he still keeps his levels pretty loud on the stage. And it just seems like, and I know that the amplification, certainly the PAs are better nowadays, but it just either, I mean, what do you think is the reason?
I don't know. I'm not out in the audience.
Yeah,
so
right.
I'm on stage, and I hear everything clearly.
Yeah.
On stage. So however it's mixed out in front is the mixer's doing the mixing.
So you think that it's not the equipment itself, it may just be the guy that's mixing the sound.
No, I mean, I think there's no doubt that I had a lot louder equipment on stage. You know, I mean, a lot more equipment to make it louder.
Do you guys bring your own sound man out to do?
Still, you know, I still use the Versatone amplifier for sustain, and I bleed that in with the PA system. And the only way that's ever worked in the past is for the PA system to be turned up. So it's all really at the controls of the sound mixer.
Does Hot Tuna bring their own front of the house sound man along with them?
Sometimes and sometimes not.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that you had quite a bit of gear to haul around with you. Can you talk a little bit about the economics of those huge Tuna onslaughts of the mid-'70s? Did RCA help fund those tours, or can you talk anything? Can you let us know something about?
I'm losing the point of your question here.
Well, in other words, I remember those tours, and you had a massive amount of gear and help and stuff, and you had, I mean, that was of course a different day and age. And I was just wondering if you could comment on the economics of those tours. I mean, I know you're out there.
That's one of the yes. That makes it tough. I mean, everything costs more to ship. Everything costs more. Gas is more. You got to have more people, and we basically, our profits were marginal, and we brought a lot of people and a lot of equipment on stage. So that's really the way.
I mean, nowadays you got to make money playing live. I mean, essentially.
And we foot the bill for that whole thing. So it's just a matter of some tours we went out, we didn't really make very much money.
Well, and basically, were you just looking to increase record sales, and that would be the whole the idea?
Well, I
mean, besides having a great time, obviously you were playing 5-hour shows. I mean,
it's all in-person performance has always been what has kept us going, and fans are, and God bless them, our fans coming to the shows have really been the meat and potatoes of our career, and we've made quite a few albums, but there's no billion-dollar albums in there in that sense at all.
Well, I can remember
even as that goes for the Airplane as well. Those kind of sales, we did not reach those types of numbers like somebody with a lot of pop songs.
Well, I can remember walking out of the Beacon Theater in 1976 and watching the sun come up. And I had walked into that place at roughly 9 p.m. the night before, and just
so did we.
And just to say, and not to, nostalgia is not necessarily a logical emotion, if you follow what I mean.
Yeah.
But I'd like to just say thanks a lot, and if it ever happens again, that'd be great. And if not, certainly we all understand, And I don't mean to this line of questioning. It's, obviously it was a different day and age.
Well, unique things happen, and there is a movement and a flow of the times, and there was definitely a few years there where we were all kind of rushing down the river.
It seemed like you guys were out there to say, "Hey, we're the guys from the Airplane, so take this." It was great. I mean, those shows were astonishing. There's never been anything like it since.
Well, thank you very much.
No question. I mean, and I'm not just saying that. And I know that there's a lot of people, and I'm definitely, somebody that I hang out with people I've known for a long time, and we trade tapes and we reminisce. And I'd like to say, and I mentioned it earlier, and I was telling Yorma the same thing when he was up here, is that hey, the sound of the current aggregation of Hot Tuna is amazing. And I'm a musician. I've got a semi-acoustic band. I appreciate other kinds of music besides in-your-face rock and roll turned up to 10. And I can say that you guys are some of the best at it, and you got an incredible keyboard player with you. And the sound, you guys really, like the sound on Sweetwater and stuff, I mean, I think you guys are sounding great as you are now, and I mean, what do you have to say about...
Well, it's more fun than ever, and it's also more fun what's fun now is having some of the tools that you've been working on to use at different times during a set or at different nights, and to enter into those little worlds of musical genres that we've created over a period of time, and see where it leads us. And it always, I think, as long as we keep our attitudes fresh and positive, then every night's a little bit different.
I'd have to say, just want to know, Jack, how do you like playing bass as opposed to lead guitar? What attracted you to playing bass?
Well, the only time I played lead guitar is when I started out, and Yorm and I were playing in kind of like Buddy Holly music, and I stopped playing guitar when the likes of people like Danny Gatton were in town, and when Danny and I used to play in a band together when I was about 17, after Yorma went off to college. And with guys like that in town, it was easy to play bass. But for me, I enjoyed the sound of the bass, and it was an instrument that was kind of like the ugly second cousin. When I started out, it was electric bass, and people are either trying to get us play the electric bass like a poor cousin to the stand-up, or they wanted to play guitar, and it was just a gig. For me, I really liked the tone of it, and I liked the things it did, and at the same time, with the bass guitar, I could really form melodic lines in that range. So I guess it's just it's kind of like why is a cello player not a violin player? You get into the certain range, and a certain sound attracts you, and you go for it.
How do you see the role of bass developing from say the 60s to the present day?
Well, gee, you can do. I've heard everybody approach it from every way, and I think it's great. There's so many players out there now, so many capable, proficient, articulate players that play that use the 4-string or 5-string or 6-string or 7-string bass, whatever, and there's always something. There's always somebody that's going to find a new little sound out of it, and a kind of a different approach. So, God bless them all.
Are there any current bass players you admire? By name?
Like I say, without naming names, there's quite a few new young guys out there that are playing interesting stuff on the bass all the time, and I think it's great. I'm personally myself, every day is a bit of a discovery and a rediscovery of tone. I'm really enjoy good tone to the instrument, and that's where people that I heard when I was much younger, mostly the jazz guys like Charlie Mingus. I remember tone that these guys got out of their instrument, and that's what loosely inspires me in the back of my mind to get good tone and interesting tone, and play the good notes.
Hey, Jack, without asking you to glorify drug use, and we all know there's been plenty of fallout from that, would you
You faded away, Gary. You're mumbling.
Okay, without asking you to glorify drug use, and we all know that there's been plenty of fallout from that, would you care to comment on the effect psychedelics had on the music proper back in the San Francisco days?
Well, I think for a certain period of time and for certain folks, it seemed to open them up to maybe listening to things they wouldn't have listened to before, or listening in a way they didn't. I'm very cautious about this. I think the basis of why I say Yorma and I are still very active in the music world and playing on a regular basis in music is due to the love of music, which came long before all of that, and a certain amount of discipline in wanting to play and develop your craft. And I think no matter what, that's where the essence of music lies.
I know I've read some stuff.
And there's all kinds of things that are involved.
I've read some,
and that was just one of them at a certain period of time. And for certain folks, it seemed to open them up and allow them to listen in a way they wouldn't normally listen. For other people, their minds are open all the time anyway.
I know I've read a lot of stuff about Yorma talking about his relationship with his instrument, and I just recently read an article last night from Guitar Player in 1976, and he said that he would, it would be typical for him to play for 8 hours a day when he was learning how to play, and I certainly think, it's obvious if you listen to Yorma that he's obviously put a lot of time into his instrument, and I'm sure that he spent a lot more time into his instrument than he was off on tripping on LSD. I can see what you mean by that.
And let me tell you, that doesn't come through taking psychedelics.
Exactly.
That's just the love of your instrument and the love of playing.
The love of the rev.
And
right?
And that's just because that's the way it is.
What do you have to say about the Reverend Gary Davis and all this?
Oh, the Rev was great, and luckily enough, I was able to hear, a period of time. Yorma's a couple of years older than I am, so when in Washington, when he went off to Antioch College, there was a co-op college, and he'd come back, and one semester, I believe he's working in a hospital in New York, and I'd take the train up from Washington, D.C., and I was around 16 then, or 17, and meet him in the village. And we go and hear various people, and we got to hear Reverend Gary Davis and a bunch of other blues guys of the time, Son House, and we got to hear Mississippi John Hurt and people of various styles that always influenced me of the sheer emotion and the amount of music, But in particular, Reverend Gary Davis, the amount of music that he could get out with that two-finger picking style is just incredible, and his voicings on the left hand, the music he would make, was just like a mini orchestra in front of it.
It's astonishing. I just picked up this CD that has the Yazoo sessions that he did, the early stuff, and I had something from later on when he was rather elderly and stuff, and that I always liked that too. But the early stuff, it really, I just, I heard, it's hard to believe this guy was doing this stuff. It's just what an amazing picker he was, incredible. Hey, I want to talk a little bit about the box set, Hot Tuna in a Can. To me, it really sounds great, and it was a long time coming.
One of the positive things for us that came out of this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff was that our record company started communicating to us on a regular basis again, with a lot of new people and enthusiasm. And they started about a year ago to re-release some of the Jefferson Airplane material on CD, and we met with them in New York. Yorma and I did, and they were very positive about re-releasing the Hot Tuna material. And the first 5 albums, they they approached us about putting it in Tuna in a can, and it's really well done, packaged. The photos are a little blurry, but I guess that's what the genre of the time was, and they put it together, and it really worked out great.
Well, I tell you, I think, and from somebody who's had a lot of critical listening, that the remastering was exceptional.
I beg your pardon?
I've done a lot of critical listening to your stuff, and I collect records, and I've done some recording, and I think that the remastering that they did, the digital remastering they did for the box set, was incredible. I mean, exceptional, especially in the case of the first two albums. And I guess Jorma was telling me that he thinks they used Sonic Solution, or one of these processes where they cut the hiss out of the first album, and they
it really came out quite well.
Yeah.
And what's nice with that first album is Jorma played his J50.
Right.
And it is so hard to even to this day to mic just a plain acoustic guitar in a situation. And I used my Guild semi-acoustic bass with a little Versatone amplifier, and we just sat up on the little stage and recorded it, and with some real nice microphones from RCA, and it really, when they remastered it, that's the first time I'd really been really satisfied with the bass tone for the way it really sounded. So I think it's really an exceptional, and of course you get a few bonus tracks on that where they added another 4 tracks.
Why do you
on this one that wasn't on the original album?
Why do you think it's harder today to mic an acoustic guitar as opposed to the old days?
To get the tone out. I mean, when you mic it, or you put a condenser mic on an acoustic instrument, it's still the tone will shift, and it becomes still a bit more brittle. It's tough with a larger audience. You can go into a tiny club and hear, and actually the people will hear the beauty and tone of the real acoustic sound. Now, don't forget, with a finger style playing, not with a flat pick, strumming. The actual volume that's coming out of the guitar is much lower. So you put that together with the sonic of a room and the bass, and a lot of times you won't get the clarity of the notes. And it's tough. That's why you see, and that's why all the acoustic guitars have Fishman pickups and various kinds of pickups. Quite a few of them all have a little preamp pickups in them with a little 9-volt battery. And unfortunately, there's a certain characteristic to that preamp that is very unacoustic.
What do you think of the blender that Jorma was using a few years back, the Fishman system?
Gary?
Yeah, the Fishman...
You're going to have to talk to me, not the microphone.
The Fishman system that Jorma was using a few years back, which I guess for those in the audience who aren't aware...
He's used that, and he's used a couple of other devices, and now he's using a Chet Atkins guitar for most of the in-stage.
What do you think of the sound of that blender?
Well, the sound is good.
Yeah,
it sounds very good.
It seemed like there was a lot of tinkering on the stage with around the Sweetwater time. He had the blender,
right.
The little mic inside the guitar.
Well, as I say, what you're trying to do is blend an acoustic sound with a sound that actually will travel through and be clear, and a few rows down into the audience. So that's what everybody's always after, is how to get that sound, how to get everybody in the bathroom,
Yeah, exactly.
You listen to that acoustic guitar, you put your ear up next to it, and you try to figure out how to get people to hear that sound.
It's a pretty difficult situation. The second album, First Pull Up, Then Pull Down, I think is another one I'd like to comment on and hear your commentary. That was always an album, and I'm a purist. I love LPs in the cases where they're recorded nicely. That was always a somewhat thin-sounding LP, and whatever they did, the bass presence on that CD, the reissue, is astonishing. It really sounds a lot better than it used to.
Well, one of the problems with the is that they tended to roll the low end off because they made the grooves too wide on the LP, and the needles tended to jump off. And that's what we were always told. And so I would hear the way we'd mix and the tone of the bass and everything on or the low end for everything, and on tape, and then you'd hear the final pressing, and it would always fall off. So the technology now with the digital remastering has really brought a lot of older recordings into clarity, and not just our stuff, but stuff from the 20s and 30s and 40s where you never got to hear the quality of the low end of the tracks, all that big band music, and that you would hear in movie soundtracks, and are now coming forth, and you hear, wow, the bass player's playing like crazy, but you never got to hear that stuff before.
I think Blessed's Pointed Little Head is the definitive live Jack Casady recording in my book. It sounds like you're about 50% of the total volume. It seems you're much lower in the mix nowadays, but that was certainly the sound that I prefer personally, and lots of people that I know. The sound of the Airplane at that stage. Did you have any comments about that?
I can barely hear you.
Oh no, not this again.
This is our high-tech system here.
I know. Can you believe it?
But you trailed away.
The Blessed's Pointed Little Head, the Airplane, the live album. We just heard a cut from that. I guess we've heard a couple of cuts today. I think that was the definitive live Jack Casady recording. It sounds like you're like about 50% of the total volume of that record. That was where it was at for me.
Well, thank you very much.
Yeah. What do you think of the reissue of that one, and the sound of the CD?
I haven't actually listened to that reissue, so you tell me.
I think it sounds great.
Okay.
And I think recently, I think the later remasterings that have happened are starting to sound warmer and more natural. But
well, they're mixing the analog sound now, and they're able to not just jump off the deep end with the digital sound. So yes, everything is beginning to gel together, the technologies now, and then you have people that are mixing that know the difference, that still try to get a warm sound.
Jack, did you ever play in the early days? Have you always played with your fingers in the early days? Or?
Yes, in the first couple of albums I did, I used to pick on recording,
such as Takes Off?
Clarity, and because that was what was generally the producers felt that the click and the percussiveness of the pick would make a better recording. And so I actually, although I play in live or in performance mostly with my fingers, and that's how I started out playing the bass, with the first two fingers. The pick was sort of reluctantly used in the first couple of albums. Jefferson Airplane Takes Off and Surrealistic Pillow. And then from then on, I use my fingers on most albums. The SVT albums, and pretty much during, that's my mighty dog, Katie. I used a thumb pick during a lot of that, which would allow me to get the percussive sound with a national heavy-duty thumb pick, and also switch over to roll over easily to the first finger and index finger for the finger sound. We
received a tape from you today of SVT, and we're really grateful to, by the way, again to mention, to have received a recording. We'll be playing a couple of songs from SVT, and you want to talk a little bit about SVT before we get going here?
All right. SVT was put together in 1979, and Brian Marnell was the singer, songwriter, and guitar player. Paul Zoll was our drummer, and this particular tape that you have, and yours truly, playing bass. And this was KTIM in San Rafael. We did a live broadcast at Hun Sound, which was a sound studio and practice hall out in San Rafael. And we did about an hour show, and that's what you're going to hear. We played a lot all over the United States, and we made an extended play album for 415 Records, and we made a full LP recorded at Fantasy recording studios on MSI Records. And we had a great time, and it was it was an interesting period of time, and we played the Mabuhay Gardens a lot in San Francisco, and were involved with Harry Klein and a bunch of the guys.
Jack, let me one more question. How would you compare playing 5-string as opposed to the 4-string bass? Do you find you can get the same rich tone out of a 5-string?
I beg your pardon?
Do you find you can get the same rich tone out of a 5-string?
Oh yeah, that's all. The 5th string is just in a lower range. It's like instead of a 66 key piano, you got an 88 key piano. It's you still play the piano. It doesn't really change anything. Sometimes your strings are grouped a little closer together, and that might shift your positions a bit. When I play a 5-string with a low B on it, your low B is mostly just used as a walk up to an E, or so that you have a more of a scale to walk up in going up into D, and that's basically it. However, technically, the most comfortable basis and range is still the 4-string, where you have that E with no string behind it to pick off on. But other than those are things that people probably wouldn't hear the difference out in the audience.
Well, listen, Jack, we've had you on the air for almost an hour, and we'd like to really thank you. I have actually a bunch more questions prepared, and I know that this is really dragging on for a while, and you probably have that phone stuck to the side of your head by now. We really appreciate your time.
Definitely.
And we would definitely love to have you up to the station with any of your cohorts, whoever they may be.
Well, when we're in the neighborhood, I'm sure we'll be glad to try to drop in to see if we can get the timing right for when you do your show.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to arrange that, and we'll be in touch about that. And really, thanks again. We know, like I say, you spent a lot of time with us today, and we're going to play another hour of music with you on it. And I'd like to remind the listeners that you're listening to WMBR Cambridge 8810, and you've been listening to an interview with Jack Casady, the bass player from Jefferson Airplane, Hot Tuna, SVT, and the current incarnation of the Jefferson Airplane, Jefferson Starship group. I guess they're calling themselves Jefferson Starship, and they should be in town. I guess you guys are coming around in July, right?
I think we'll be somewhere in July.
Yeah, it's kind of nothing.
And also, Hot Tuna will be doing a bunch of shows in August, and then we'll be doing our fall tour in November too. But we're booking a bunch of shows now in August, and we look forward to that too.
Well, we'll keep you posted out there in Radioland. And Jack, thanks again. And
thank you, definitely, Jack.
We'll be
thank you guys.
We'll be in touch, and check your mailbox too, buddy.
All righty.
Thanks. We'll talk to you.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Take care.